It has been a catastrophic Friday morning for Donald Trump. He thought that his military strikes in Nigeria would distract the American people from his cover-up of the Epstein files. The American people are not distracted. We know that the Trump regime is now potentially hiding millions of additional Epstein files. I did a video about it this morning. So here's what Donald Trump is posting now that people continue to say. We know that there's a massive cover-up. His post this morning is a photo of former President Bill Clinton, who, by the way, Donald Trump recently said in a press conference is a good friend of his, a good guy, good friends. This is what Donald Trump posted. Democrats push for Epstein files boomeranged, with Clinton featured prominently throughout. Be careful what you ask for. The most recent disclosures posted on Friday blows back on Democrats who sought concrete implications of Trump in the files. This is what Donald Trump is posting the Friday after Christmas. You think it boomeranged back on Democrats? Dude, people just want the files released. Stop making it Republican, Democrat, Trump issue. Release the files. The Epstein Transparency Act required that all the files be released on December 19th. And now you're saying there are millions of files that you're just finding? Everybody knows you're engaged in a cover-up of a child sex trafficking ring. They can draw their implications why you are doing that, but you're doing it. It's obvious. That's undisputed. And then you all remember that yesterday on Christmas, Donald Trump wrote, "Merry Christmas to all, including the many sleazebags who loved Jeffrey Epstein, gave him bundles of money, went to his island, attended his parties, and thought that he was the greatest guy on earth, only to drop him like a dog when things got too hot." You went to parties with him. He was like your best friend for like a decade. You have all these photos together, and not just like random photos, like photos of you all like going out together. You would do what you would refer to as parties with him, or what were referred to as parties. And it would be you, Epstein, and you would bring in 20 to 30 young individuals, females, potentially girls, and you would say that you were going to do modeling competitions. And I remember these businessmen who've been talking about it were like, it was only Trump and Epstein and they wanted all these girls there. Like, do you think we're stupid? Like, what do we think you were doing there? Like, come on. And you said he's a great guy who likes women on the younger side. You've been found liable civilly for sexual assault. Mar-a-Lago was used as the grounds for sex trafficking. I can say that without fear of anything because it's true. I mean, Virginia Giuffre, who recently died by suicide, was sex trafficked out of Mar-a-Lago. So the grounds, the place you live, is actually like a scene of where the trafficking originated from with at least Virginia Giuffre. Oh, and then Donald Trump posts this as well this morning. This is how he's giving himself the therapy he needs. But by the way, everybody, hit subscribe if you can. We're on our way to 6 million subscribers. You may think you're subscribed, but just double check that you're actually subscribed. And while we're at it, if you can, go over to MeidasPlus.com, MeidasPlus.com. That's our Substack. As you know, in the past week alone, we've broken like the major Epstein stories here through our Substack and through this YouTube. And you know, we're competing with all the major corporate and cable news and we're beating them, right? We broke the story about the Larry Nassar Epstein letter. We broke the story about the 1.2 million documents that are missing. So if you can, go over to MeidasPlus.com and support our independent reporting as well, if you can. So Donald Trump posting this morning as well. Rubio imposes visa restrictions on European officials who attempted to censor American free speech. The Trump administration will no longer tolerate egregious acts of extraterritorial censorship, Rubio writes. Rubio sanctions European officials. I just want everybody to think about this. At the same time, the United States is removing sanctions from Russia. The United States is sanctioning Europe because the European Union has a digital law that prevents consumer fraud, the proliferation of bots, and disinformation spreading, the type that the United States has failed to address. They're addressing it in Europe in order to protect free speech and democracy. Now, is the United States sanctioning Saudi Arabia? Or are they sanctioning China? Are they sanctioning any other country where there's actual repression of free speech? No, the United States is focused on attacking Europe. Why? Because they're regurgitating the Putin talking points. They don't even allow Twitter or X or these social media platforms in Russia. You think that Donald Trump's buddy MBS, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, you think they have open free speech in Saudi Arabia? Absolutely not. Europe's just trying to protect and guardrail its free speech and protect it from disinformation and a lot of the manipulation you can see with AI and other things. And the U.S. sanctions them, and Trump brags about it this morning. Look, just take a look at Donald Trump's polling, though, and you see why he's in a spiral, because his polling's plummeting. As we approach the new year, his approval is in the 30s, the lowest in presidential history. In generic congressional and Senate ballots, Democrats have significant leads over Republicans. When you look at Senate candidate fundraising, Democrats are outraising Republicans by $70 million, $80 million. So what does Trump do? He posts photos of senators as zombies, and he reposts this Mike Lee photo of senators as zombies and says, the chronic abuse of the Senate's 60-vote cloture standard must come to an end. And all he's been posting this morning too is, end the filibuster, end the filibuster, and then he's posting this. Sworn testimony exposes massive 2020 election data dump. Bombshell video from a brave poll watcher will make your blood boil. They stopped counting in swing states. So Trump is still spreading disinformation about the 2020 election that he lost big to former President Joe Biden. Here we are, December 26th, when I'm recording that. And that's what he's doing. He's also posting this morning. This is his big brag. Federal employment is now at the lowest level since 2014, down by 271,000 jobs since Trump took office. They're boasting about firing or forcing out competent civil servants who have helped our government function correctly. And as this account explains, as the Political Punk account explains, so they cut a ton of jobs that had great benefits for the American people that helped us. Emergency management and gathering important data to determine how we should build our country, how we can help manufacturing. I mean, just they're cutting all these important jobs. And now we have increased unemployment, and we have $2.2 trillion in new national debt in less than a year. Jobs got cut. Federal spending increased. So with DOGE, federal spending increased significantly this year versus former President Biden. They truly can't do anything right at all. And going to this point where they can't do anything right, like we're all focused, rightfully so, on the cover-up of the Epstein files and the failure of the Trump regime to produce this electronically stored information and to get it out there. But just take a look at this other case right now. So the key witness when the Trump regime tried to indict James Comey, which was ultimately dismissed because there was an unlawful prosecutor. Lindsay Halligan was not allowed to be the prosecutor in the room. She was not appointed as the United States attorney through the appropriate channels, and there was already an interim United States attorney before her. She was disqualified. The case gets dismissed right there. There was a lot of other issues with what went down in that grand jury in the Comey case and in the New York Attorney General Letitia James case. But the witness was a lawyer for James Comey, a guy by the name of Daniel Richman. He didn't testify. His testimony would have been favorable to Comey because he's Comey's lawyer. But his attorney-client communications with Comey were basically stolen by the Trump regime. And so the Trump regime put an FBI agent to testify basically about stolen attorney-client communications, which you're not allowed to do. So to the extent that case did not get dismissed because of the unlawful prosecutor, Lindsay Halligan, there's so many other reasons it likely would have been dismissed, that they put on an FBI agent who took attorney-client information that he wasn't allowed to look at. It was a tainted witness to begin with. But Daniel Richman recently sued the government and said, you stole my attorney-client information, give me my files back, and a judge ordered that those files be returned to Daniel Richman, that there was an unlawful search. That's why I'm saying it's unlawful. A federal judge ruled recently that it was an unlawful search and seizure and told the government, return Richman's documents, return Comey's lawyer's documents back to Comey, back to Richman rather. They belong to Richman. Return it. And they gave a deadline. Do you think this DOJ was able to meet the deadline? Nope. Today, this morning, they filed emergency motion for extension of time to certify compliance. This is what the DOJ says. The court on December 12, 2025, ordered that petitioner's motion for return of property was granted as to the image of his personal computer that the United States made in 2017, any files obtained from the Columbia University email accounts on his Apple iCloud accounts in 2019 or 2020 that are in possession of the United States, any copies of the image or files obtained from his email or iCloud accounts that are in the possession of the United States, and any materials directly obtained or extracted from the files that are in the possession of the United States. Then you go down here and it says, however, because of these significant operational constraints caused by the imminent Christmas and New Year's holidays, for example, the lack of sufficient technically qualified government personnel in the Washington, D.C. area for the remainder of this week and the next, which make the current compliance deadline fall a mere one business day after the court's revised clarifying order, the government anticipates that it will not be able to review all electronic storage devices containing classified information, delete the information, and return those devices to Richmond's counsel by December 29th, 2025. So they ask for an extension of time in order to be able to do it. What's notable too, you know who signs that document right there? Lindsay Halligan, who's been disqualified. They have Lindsay, look, it says Lindsay Halligan, United States Attorney for the Eastern District of Virginia. A disqualified United States Attorney is one of the signatories on this document with Todd Blanche. So when Donald Trump's bragging that they don't have people who work at the federal government, there you go. There you go. And they have the most incompetent people too. Corrupt, evil people. Anyway, hit subscribe. Let's get to 6 million, and thanks for subscribing.
Want to stay plugged in? Become a subscriber to our Substack at MeidasPlus.com. You'll get daily recaps from Ron Filipkowski, ad-free episodes of our podcast, and more exclusive content only available at MeidasPlus.com.